On the next episode of Meatheads, we'll be talking nightmare training clients, the top 5 ways fitness professionals spend their downtime, and a really good way to use Kahnawak's outdoor gym.
Have you ever been gaming or working online classes and your internet service constantly gets interrupted? First Nations Fiber is about to ensure that just won't happen again. Get ready for high speed at a new level. Click on fnfiber.com and sign up today. First Nations Fiber, empowering people through connectivity.
It is May, and it is beautiful out. Welcome to Meatheads. My name is Marc Lalonde. I'm here, as always, with my good friend and colleague in the training business, Total Fitness CEO, Derek DeLille. Derek, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic today. How about yourself?
I am doing amazing. The weather is nice, not too hot, not too cold. Perfect. It is a beautiful day, and my mood reflects that. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to get started with you today because we are going to have some fun. We are going to be talking about nightmare training clients. So we're going to get some badly needed catharsis off our chests, and we're going to talk about Kahnawak's outdoor gym, that outdoor fitness facility over by the river. And we're going to be talking about the best ways we enjoy spending our downtime. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. Derek, it's always fun to complain in our work. Mm-hmm. Nobody really wants to hear it except other trainers. So this is our chance to kvetch.
All right. Where do we start?
Well, where do we start? Nightmare clients. So I have some nightmare clients of my own. I thought we could go back and forth and compare notes as to who might be the worst. So why don't you start?
All right, the one that comes on top of my head, it's a client that thinks he's the only client, or they're the only client that you have. So there's sometimes when they come in and say their scheduled appointment is at 5:00. Let's just randomly say a number at 5. They'll sometimes be like, "Hey, Derek, can I come in at 12 today?" Or Derek, can you switch up some clients so I can come in tomorrow and they can take my spot? And in the beginning of the time, I tried to make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, I start realizing, you're on the same set schedule for the last couple of years. I can't just start switching everybody out or have you come in on my workout time or my lunch hour time. So it was always one of those things where they wouldn't come in, but then they'll be like, "Hey, Derek, I'm going to come in tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of busy tomorrow." "Okay, how about Sunday morning? Can you give me a program? I want to do something on Sunday." I'm like, "I'm on the gym Sundays." "Oh, come in for me, just an hour. I'm like, "Sorry." And before, I'd always want to, please the client, please the customer. It's always, it's business.
I think that's a trainer thing because we do want to make our clients happy. Mm-hmm. We want to please them. We want to accommodate them, and we want to be there for them in their journey. But sometimes it's a challenge.
It really is. Like I remember one time, there's so many instances where, say noon, I'm having my lunch, and I do fasting, right? So my first meal of the day is at 12:00. So I'm looking for that meal. And then this client would have to come in at 2:00, let's say. So I've got time to, eat, digest, relax. "Derek, I'm in a rush. Can I be there in 5 minutes?" I'm like, and at that time, like, okay, we'll come in, we'll do a quick workout. I'll eat at 1. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I have a client at 1 and then I have a client at 2, which he just canceled. So I had to bring somebody else from later to come in earlier. And then I realized I didn't even eat yet. And you can only eat so many protein bars and protein shakes before you just need a real meal and you need your time. And I think that caused a lot of burnout for me. So now it's like your schedule's at 2, you're at 3, you're at 4, keep it, you miss it. Unfortunately, you miss it.
I would argue that is one of the biggest challenges for a trainer. I'm in this exact same boat. It's really hard for me to say no to people. And as a result, in the past, I have run myself ragged being there for my clients. So I'm like, if I'm not at my best for my clients, how are they getting the best out of me? Mm-hmm. And we're both being cheated. So I've learned, and it's been hard, to stand up for myself a little bit more, to say, nope, these are my boundaries. These are my parameters. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I don't work Sundays. I have to have a day off a week too. I work 6 days a week. That's plenty of days to be working. Mm-hmm. And whilst I appreciate my clients' need to get their workout in, the only time I ever offer a Sunday opportunity is when that client would come join me in my workout. And that's it. Mm-hmm. Because I have the hour, I'll monetize my hour by training with the client, but I'm not going to do more than that because that's my time.
Because sometimes because I train people locally, if I'm there on a Sunday morning training somebody at 8:00 and I'm not really supposed to be there, you can have somebody drive by. I'm like, hey, Derek's there. Maybe he can train me so I don't have to come in tomorrow. And all of a sudden I have people coming in the door. Hey, Derek, you're open? I didn't know you train on Sundays. I'm like, right. So now it's like I got to park in the back or just be like, you know what? No.
Gotta hide my car.
It feels like that sometimes.
I'm sure. Kahnawake is a small community, and people recognize people's cars, and I'm sure that your clients would try to take advantage of that. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I've had a client just like that, except that he's an older gentleman, super nice guy, and I have a ton of empathy for him because he's racked with anxiety. He's a wonderful person. He's a great person. Problem is, he's never on time if he shows up at all. And if he doesn't, he's very apologetic about it, but he never lets me know in advance. So I will, his times are in the afternoon. So I pick up my son every day at 3:30. This client usually has a 4 o'clock appointment. So pick up my son and I race home, get my studio ready, and I get ready to welcome the client. Well, he doesn't usually, if he has a 4 o'clock appointment, I guarantee he won't walk in the door before 4:10. He has half an hour booked. So by the time he gets in, not only will he arrive, but he will take his time getting into the studio and getting ready, and then ask at the end, well, why did we have to rush through it? And I said, well, because I have to leave at 4:30 and this is your time and this is the time you have. And otherwise I have to leave and do other things in my life. And so I appreciate his dedication to getting his work done, but oftentimes it feels like it's a social call for him. So he shows up and he chats some more, and he asks me what's new in my life and this and that. And I'm like, what would be great? Curls, squats, hop on the rowing machine. Let's go. We have like 18 minutes and we don't have time to chat. So that is a source of some consternation for me, because every time now when his time rolls around, he's Tuesdays and Fridays at 4 o'clock. Now when his time rolls around, I start to get a little bit of anxiety, wondering if this is the day he'll show up on time. And it never is. And so I have to preface all this by saying how much I like him personally, which is why I continue to train him.
Exactly. And I find that's a lot of the times that's why we do it for. We like these people. They're either associates on the outside of the gym or you just like hanging out with them. But then you're like, you got to respect my time too.
Yeah, this is a work relationship. It's a relationship, but it's a work relationship. So get in, get your work done, and we can chat afterwards. I love him, but get in, get out, and get on with your day. That's how I feel about the gym as well.
Because sometimes I think they don't think we have lives outside the gym. We live there, so we're just there to accommodate all their times. This one instance, same client actually. I'm at the gym. His class is at 4 o'clock, let's say. And he gets there. He messaged me. I said, okay, I'm running late. I'll be there at 4 o'clock for you. He's okay, no problem. I got a message. I think it was around 3:50. He goes, yeah, Derek, I've been here for about 10 minutes. I know you're running late, so I'm just going to call it a day. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm running around having to do urgent things, but I'm going to be there at 4. Usually I'm there earlier to open up and, get them ready.
But you are hustling. You are compressing your day. You're rushing through your stuff in order to get there for 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I've been here for 10 minutes. I know you're running around. I'm going to leave. So when I got to the gym, it was 5 to 4. So I'm like, you weren't even here at your regular time. You're here way earlier. So sometimes they come up with excuses not to work out and they kind of put the blame on you.
I get that feeling, and that I have that feeling with that client. Once in a while, they're just looking for a reason to not get it done. I'm just not in the mood today.
That's why.
But they never say I'm not in the mood today.
Nope. That's why every morning I'll message clients, hey, we in today? And I wait for them to give me that muscle emoji.
The muscle emoji, yeah.
So usually that means yes. I'm like, hey, cool. Let me get the workout ready and everything, and I'll
get myself prepped and ready and have all the equipment ready for you to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to that. So I that reminds me of another client I had who was a 17-year-old girl. She was graduating from high school and off to spend her summer in Egypt. So it's quite warm. She's going to be in a bathing suit all summer. So her goal was to get in shape and in her words, get skinny for Egypt. Now, that should have been a red flag right off the bat. I want to get skinny for Egypt. That's not really a goal that is realistic, especially in just a couple of months to change your body.
Yeah.
Dramatically, which is what skinny would have been for that girl. I had a discussion with her, and I made her realize the importance of consistency and putting in good habits in order to continue those good habits to see the changes she wanted to see, because you're not making major changes in your body without a dedication to what you are training, your output, and as well as what you're putting in your body with your input. So if your calories aren't controlled, if you're not very disciplined, you're just not going to make those changes, even if you're at 17 years old and your body is at its most efficient that it's ever going to be. I'm so jealous of teenagers right now. This client thought, effectively, like, the problem was she had no work ethic. She had never worked hard in her life or anything. And so this was not something she was going to start working hard at. So we would do, just as an example, I remember distinctly a set of leg extensions. Leg extensions. You are seated for leg extensions. You are sitting down to exercise. This is almost as easy an exercise as it gets. But if you want to tone quads, it's a nice one. So I said, okay, I want her to feel like she's toned. We'll do some leg extensions. So she sits down, she does 2 leg extensions, stops and goes, can I stop now? I'm tired. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that beyond, well, the point is for you to get tired a little bit. Like, there's no way to do what you want to do without putting in the work. And she looked at me, and immediately the thought went across both our faces where I could just read her thoughts saying, I'm paying a personal trainer. I should get skinny. Like the act of hiring a trainer would get her skinny somehow. Like it was, I'm just going to pay and fat's going to fall off my body.
It's kind of like when you just pay for a special supplement that's going to melt off your body fat. They think it's magic. Right. You got to put the work into
this
it.
One cool trick that melts belly fat. Yeah, that one cool trick is called the Caloric Deficit, and it's really great. It works every time.
Yeah, it's been working for the last 100 years that people start exercising, maybe longer.
Yep, and there's really no other way to do it. Science has not yet created a magic pill, as we have so often said on this podcast. And the reality is, if you're not putting in the work, if you don't have good habits, your body will not reflect what you want it to reflect. Period. Exactly. Point final.
Yep.
That brings me to a third nightmare client. I had a client wanted to lose weight. Okay. So this client, to his credit, started working out 4 times a week, hard weight training, resistance, a lot of cardio, was doing very, very well in the gym. Great, really strong person. Like he could squat 440 pounds free. It was impressive. He was very, very strong, but he was on the heavy side and he wanted to lose weight. So he asked me, how do I lose weight? I said, well, a couple things. I said, we got to consider how you're training and what you're eating. Those two are there's just no way around those two things. So I asked him, okay, so I gave him an eating plan. He had said to me, okay, Mark, every morning I get up and I eat a bagel for breakfast with cream cheese. And I'm like, okay, that's the first place we got to start. Your breakfast has to have some protein, and it has to be fewer calories, and it has to be fewer carbohydrates, period. So I said, I would like you to replace your morning bagel with a protein shake. And I asked him, when I ask clients to make these changes, I said, is this acceptable to you? He said, yeah, no problem. I can do that. Okay. 2 months go by. We're training 4 times a week. He's doing really well in the gym, getting stronger. Numbers are going up across the board, but he's not losing weight. Looks at me, Mark, why am I not losing weight? And I'm like, okay, I'm happy to answer that question. What's going in your mouth these days? I said, tell me about your breakfasts. He and I would work out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then he'd go home and eat. And I said, great. Are you starting your day with a protein shake? And he said, no, I'm hungrier than ever. So I start the day with 2 bagels instead of 1. And I'm like, I just don't know what to say to that. I'm like, you can't add calories and hope to lose weight. It doesn't work like that. Even if you're burning 1,000 calories in an hour-long workout, and that's an intensive workout, if you're putting back 700 of simple carbohydrates, there is no balance there.
Like, see, we can give as much advice, but it's what they do at home as well, right? Like I have clients where, actually one good example, he wanted to do a 5x5 program. And I found this program, it was based on Bill Starr, and it's 3 days a week, but they also have a very advanced version where it's 5 days a week. And he's a big guy, very strong, but just a big guy and maybe 100 pounds overweight. He had to lose a lot of weight. Right. And he goes, well, Derek, I just want to do strength, and I'm like, okay, follow this 3 days a week. He goes, but there's an option on the program to do 5 days a week. I'm like, yeah, but you'll be squatting 5 sets of 5 days a week at different percentages, but still a lot of squats.
And that's a lot of body weight.
It really is.
If you're 100 pounds overweight, asking that many back squats 5 days a week, it's tough on the knees.
It really is. And after, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, he stopped coming for a while, and he was, yeah, Derek, I'm going to burn myself out. And I hate to be the guy that says, I told you so, but that's pretty much what it was. I told you so. You know, they want the results, but they want our advice, but they don't take our advice, or they'll take our advice but add what they saw on TikTok or add what they
Instagram
saw, or all these other
influencers.
Exactly.
Yeah, our clients being under the influence of influencers is a bit of an issue. Hey, I saw this thing on Facebook for 10 seconds. What do you have to say about that? I'm like, well, that counteracts 3 years of nutritional education that I have. So I wouldn't put any stock in any of that. Oh yeah, but I saw this on Facebook. Oh, you saw it on Facebook. Okay, well, it's got to be great.
And you know, it's such a big thing now that there's actually, I guess you can top influencers or top trainers actually debunking all these people, saying you should be watching TikTok, and they actually talk like what we're saying: the calorie deficit, workout, be progressive, and not to follow all these TikTok people. Like one of the bodybuilders, he's a trainer as well, who I follow a lot. He'll take the TikTok workout and break it down and tell you why it doesn't work, why isn't it good. One girl was doing banded goblet squats, but the band was through a plate, and yeah, it was more difficult to get into it than the exercise itself. So I had my girls try it because she brought it in. She's like, hey, look what I found. So I'm like, hey, let's give it a try. And it was the most idiotic exercise I think I've ever put somebody through. It was almost embarrassing to have them do it, but we did it for fun, just to debunk this exercise. It's like, I don't really feel anything. I feel better just lifting weights, you know? So there you go.
There you go.
Need bands and all this funky stuff. There's a time and place for it, but
no, I mean, banded squats are great. If you want to add a little engagement to your glutes while you're doing some goblet squats, fantastic. Wrap a band just above your knees and go to town.
Yeah, exactly. But this one had a band through the hole and around her hips, and it was just kind of crazy.
It's a fun addition to leg day. And I know my clients do get a kick out of doing that, but adding, like, the problem is when you have all these props and different things that people do on Facebook, they get distracted by the toys and they're like, oh, why am I not using so many toys in my workout? You know, am I not getting a good workout? I'm like, you could stand in the corner, do 2,000 squats without any toys at all, and that would be a great workout.
Yeah. And see, for somebody like myself that knows the benefits of real exercise, I have no problem with that. But I find a lot of clients, they want to have that spicy workout, something different, something exciting to like talk about or take a picture of. Exactly.
Yeah.
One of the guys I follow online is Paul Carter, and he said it best. He goes, you know, you can be on the same program for months at a time with minor changes and still make benefits. You don't have to change your workout all the time and add band chops and jump squats with just stick with the basics, and you can progress from there.
I find that, as you say, there's a certain comfort in my workout routine, and I like it and I know it. And some days I'm really not in the mood to go in and do it, but I go in and do it anyway, you know, and grumble through the whole thing, but I get it done. And and I know that I feel great after, which is why it's funny that I had this discussion with this 17-year-old, because my daughter is now 17, and my daughter's, to her credit, I'm going to brag on my kid for a minute. Her weight room habits are exemplary, like exemplary. She showed up she's starting at John Abbott next year. She's playing hockey on the hockey team. She showed up to her first testing day on, I want to say Saturday morning. And she very nearly set the personal record for bench press on her first day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The John Abbott testing record is 150 for the bench press, and she banged out 145 on her first day.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, so I was very pleased then. She's just turned 17 in January, and I'm very, very proud. Not so much of the accomplishment, but the habits that she built in order to get there. Yeah. And she and I had a discussion this morning. As I said to her, I'm like, hey, I want to compare you to another 17-year-old I've trained in the past. Can you tell me exactly what your mindset is when you go in the gym? And she said to me words I have said to myself a million times over. So I'm very proud of that as well. And she said, I don't really have a mindset in there. I just love how I feel afterwards.
That's
so
good.
She pushes hard in order to feel great later. And I said, you know what? That's exactly how I go about my business too. Push myself hard for an hour so that the other 23 hours of the day, I will feel amazing.
Yeah.
And that's all I hope to accomplish out of my workout. I don't know about you, but that's what I hope to accomplish.
Well, you know, I actually had a conversation with this with one of my buddies yesterday. I asked him, why do you work out? I wasn't in the rut, but I was feeling a little bit stressed, even in my own workouts, because it's like, I was looking at social media and I see the average guy, girl, you know, and they don't work out. They got the dad bod going on. They're having their beer by the barbecue and a barbecue by the pool. And they're always smiling, having great fun and whatever. And I'm at the gym hungry. I'm like, I'm so hungry. I want to eat, but I can't overdo my carbs, but it's right there. I can eat the whole thing. So I started stressing about my nutrition. I started stressing about, did I eat too much carbs this weekend? Am I a little bit too bloated? Did I get enough protein? Is my workout being proficient? So even though working out is healthy, sometimes it goes to the point where you're getting stressed out over it. And
it can cause anxiety.
It really does. Because I remember when I was dieting, at the end of the day, I'm trying to get 100 carbs. And I got 175, 150, which isn't crazy at my body weight. But I was like, oh man, how am I going to burn these off? I got to eat less tomorrow. And I started like over stressing it.
Yeah, because you also feel the water that it retains.
Yeah, especially in the lower back. And
yeah. Oh man, the lower back. Don't get me started. I hate being 45. I had stiffness the other day when I woke up and I jumped in the hot tub for a minute. We just bought a hot tub at home, and what a difference it has made. That actually is an excellent segue. So we're going to move right along into our next topic, which is downtime. So we just discussed, seeing other people around the barbecue holding a beer, and we're in the gym grunting and slaving away and monitoring what's going in our mouths. I mean, for me, I know that all weekend I just ate spinach and chicken. And then one night, like on, I think Sunday night, I had half a smoked meat sandwich, and I will be darned if that grease didn't go right through me, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
It was not good. It didn't end well, and I was not happy about it. So I'm back to spinach and chicken again, because I don't want to feel that way. Yeah. I don't really care about the food, but the taste going in, but darn it, man, I don't want to feel what I felt after that. That was misery. So, getting old is wonderful, although it's not necessarily old. Yesterday, give you an example, I coach football in my downtime, which is one of the fun things I love to do, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. But the point of my story is that yesterday we had a flag football practice for my son's flag football team, which will be going to Boston and competing in a tournament at Harvard University at the end of June. So on this flag football team is about 10 kids, and most of whom play also for my son's Pee-wee football team. So we had a flag practice from 3 to 4:30 yesterday afternoon at the field. Then we had an hour and a half break. And then we had our own Pee-wee practice with full pads and contact at 6 o'clock. So the head coach of the team, I'm not the head coach, I'm one of the assistants, said, okay, we'll order some pizza for the boys. Well, so they're 12, they love pizza. Great. Mm-hmm. So they sat down on the field after their practice and had pizza. So it was Little Caesars pizza, which as we know is mostly oil. And so lo and behold, 10 minutes into practice, out of the 10 boys who ate pizza for dinner, 8 of which came to me in the first 20 minutes and said, my stomach doesn't feel good. I have to go either use the washroom, thinking about throwing up. This doesn't feel good. This is awful. And so it's pretty clear at times the things that we put in our body are pretty toxic, but you don't always get that immediate effect.
No.
So they got it because they had been running around all afternoon, and the carbohydrates and all that grease, everything, the grease is going right into the bloodstream. So my son was the first one to I have to go to the washroom right now. And then a couple others followed suit. And then a couple of the others later, it's sitting in my stomach. So I guess the lesson is this: don't eat Little Caesars pizza before you go running around in the heat. Downtime. We're discussing how we use our downtime. Today, we're going to be discussing our top 5 ways of using our downtime. I've already touched on one, which is my favorite thing now these days, is taking my aching bones and body and getting it into my hot tub and relaxing in there for 20 minutes with a book. Mm-hmm. There's no better way for me to reset my brain, forget some of the rest of the day, and allow freedom in my mind to handle the rest of my day. Because these days I work from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. pretty much every night. So that if I don't have that transition in the day, man, it is tough.
Mm-hmm. I just bought a house and it has a pool. So it's my first pool I've had. So my downtime is usually when I'm done work around. Well, now it's summertime, right? Now, obviously not in the winter. There's different ways I downtime. But now I just like to, and it's heated, my pool. So it's not I gotta shiver for a while. It's just like you just walk in and you float around. The kids are still at school. So you're just like, this is my downtime. I can just float around in the sun when it's nice out. And it's not often I get that type of relaxation anywhere, especially when it's not hot outside. You're inside and dealing with everything. So I just float. And then when my son comes home from school, he wants to play. I'm like, Dad. He goes, why are you just floating around? You're old. I'm like, no, I'm relaxing. He goes, the pool's meant to have fun. So I'm like, all right, my relaxing's over.
Relaxation time is over.
I grab the ball and start throwing around and stuff.
I did the same thing yesterday. I don't know if you do this too when you float, but I make sure my ears are under the water so that it's like a sensory deprivation tank. Mm-hmm. So I hear nothing except the water bubbling. I close my eyes so I see nothing. My brain is shut off, and it is closed for business for 20 minutes, and it is so good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So good for me. So you enjoy your pool. So that's number one for both of us is getting in some water and decompressing for a few minutes. So I guess that shouldn't be too surprising. My second way of downtiming is as soon as I thought of my hot tub, I thought of my barbecue. I barbecue on charcoal. I don't have a propane barbecue, and I'm sort of a purist that way. I love the taste of meat over charcoal, and that is that's my number two way of using my downtime is barbecuing delicious meats on my grill. We had our top 10 meats a couple weeks back, which got lots of reaction around the office and in other places. And so I get, it's really, really fun for me to play with different cuts of meat and throw them on the barbecue. Now my son's getting into it too. So
see, I like how you brought that up because I realized my downtime is I love to cook. I was never a cooker before, but then when I got my divorce, I'm like, hey, well, I don't have a wife to cook for me anymore, so I got to learn how to cook. So I did the whole YouTube, and I started watching videos on how to make the perfect steak, how do you make the perfect this. So now on Sundays is when I usually do my big cooking, and it's when I have the most time. I love starting at noon and getting the potatoes ready and pre-boiling them and whatever I got to do. This weekend was like tomahawk steaks and lobster because they're in abundance, they're on sale. I'm like, hey, picked up a couple lobsters and 2 tomahawk steaks.
Are you kidding me? Tomahawk steak and lobsters?
It was so good.
Talk about living the high life, man.
Well, every Sunday I like to do something good for everybody. And so I made 2 of those and it just came out perfect. It was just so good. It takes a long time to prepare and cook and whichever. And that was my downtime. And that's when I eat it. I enjoy it. The kids are like, hey, whatever. They don't really care for it too much, but I'm just like, this is good.
I have a goal in life of cooking up a tomahawk steak on the barbecue with no children around, taking it off and just eating it off the bone in my hand.
I did that. Like after it was all cooked, I took the bone off and I was joking around with the kids. I'm like, this is how we're going to be eating it. And I started gnawing on the bone and it's like, you just feel like a barbarian. It's kind of cool.
It's awesome. That idea fills me with glee. Is that wrong?
But the thing with the kids, like they'll eat it, but they're like, oh, but I think it's undercooked. I'm like, you can't
undercook a steak.
No. And I even did it a little bit medium raw, I guess. It was nice and pink. It was really, really good.
Pink on the inside is ideal.
Yeah. But they're like, oh, Dad, can you cook it a little longer? I'm like, for real? So I put it back on and I seared it a couple more times. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, that's enough. It's a little bit on more pink than I wanted to be, but.
Yeah, a woman I dated many years ago liked her steaks well done, so we broke up. Because I'm like, this will never work. Because I'm like, we don't have enough in common. I'm sorry. You like your steaks overcooked. That is wrong, and that's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah,
and that's not really why, but I like to think that it is. So that's one of my. I really enjoy that. So like you say, Sundays, my favorite thing. I love doing that on Sundays in the fall. Maybe the barbecue. Maybe I'll do a big roast in the oven, but I like to spend my afternoon prepping it with football on television. Because there's lots of downtime in between football to allow yourself to go back in the kitchen and cook and then just follow whatever football game you're watching on television. So my son and I like to my son will just sit and watch football and I will cook and watch football and nothing in the world makes me happier than that. So yeah, I'm very sympathetic, which brings me to my third way of using my downtime, and that is coaching football. I don't know if you can tell, my voice is on the raspy side today because the last 4 weeks or so, I've been coaching football 4 nights a week. I coach 2 teams in the West Island, and one of which is my son's team. And it is my happy place. Other than the gym, it is my absolute happy place. Like when I'm on the field, it is a wonderful place to be. It's so much fun. It's not necessarily downtime per se, but it is my spare time.
Yeah.
And I treasure it. I absolutely treasure it. If I didn't have this in my life, I'd be a less happy person. So that's how I enjoy it. So 3, what's your third, my friend?
During COVID, I picked up a hobby. It's RC cars. The
remote control cars. Like yes, sir.
I got the crawlers. I got the X Maxes. And I don't know what it is. I thought it was kind of a nerdy, geeky thing to get into, but I got into it with the kids at first, and then they weren't into it as much as I was. But I'll take it. I'll go up in the mountains over here, just in town, and I'll go through the rocks, and I kind of like. envision myself in it because I have a Wrangler myself. So I'm like, I'm not going to go crawling with my Jeep, but I'm going to take my little car and go crawling with it. And it's just like, it's an escape. You're walking through the grass, the fields, whichever, and you're just kind of like in your own little zone doing your thing.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And I don't know.
RC cars. Yeah, that's really cool.
And what's weird about it, because I thought it was such like, oh, no one's going to do this when I go in the bush and hide out and no one see me. All of a sudden, everybody out from the woodworks comes like, hey, Derek, I got one too. Let's go out. Hey, Derek, I got one too. Let's do this. I'm like, really? You're all nerds like me?
It's funny how people hide their nerdy sides until they encounter other nerds who are passionate about the same nerdy things about which they are passionate.
Yeah. And you know, there's so many other worse hobbies I could probably be doing. I'm like, hey, man, this is fun. It gets me out of the house, gets me under the sun, and just enjoy myself.
There really are worse habits to get into. And speaking of worse habits to get into, one of mine is Marvel movies. I adore Marvel movies. I love them so much that my son and I, every 6 months or so, as a project, air quotes around project, he and I restart the Marvel movies from scratch. So
in order?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Iron Man, and then working all the way up to whatever is most recently available on streaming, which is Spider-Man No Way Home. And we discussed it, and he is becoming a bit of a nerd in the same regard. So he can actually have high level discussions about characters and story arcs. And Derek, it's so fun to share my nerdery with my son. It's so much fun. And you know, he and I went to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness last week. And, you know, we had discussions about that on the way home and what scene did you like best and this and that. And it's so much fun to have those discussions with him at an age where I didn't anticipate being able to have these discussions. So, nice to know that my nerdery has rubbed off.
Mm-hmm. So my son is into the Marvels as well, and he'll do the same thing. And if he knows we're going to watch Doctor Strange, which we watch, a couple days prior, he'll watch all the movies leading up to it, I guess. And I'll watch it with him, and we went to go watch it. But I find, for me, it was a little bit of a mind trip because I don't know Doctor Strange too well. I'm more into, Spider-Man and Iron Man. But the Doctor Strange, it was just like a warped reality I was watching. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. I might have a brain aneurysm just watching everything that's going on.
I am a huge fan. I was a huge fan of his comics, weirdly, because I was never a wizard magic guy. I always loved the heroes. Like you, Spider-Man was my guy. Loved Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk are my two favorites. I don't know if it has anything to do with the vividness of their colors, but I love colors. But Doctor Strange, man, I had a soft spot for him because of the hair. I always loved the white sideburns. I thought that was cool and thought, you know what? Nobody looks like him in comics. So this is interesting to me.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember seeing a Doctor Strange cartoon on a few years back, and it was there were aspects of it, like Marvel had started beta testing some of the aspects of what they were going to do with the Doctor Strange movie, the live action movie. So some of the concepts were similar. And I remember just being fascinated, sitting there the whole time for an hour and a half, just my hand on my face going, this is awesome. And it was an hour and a half long cartoon, and I was a 35-year-old man. And I'm like, I'm watching cartoons and this is great. So, I get a huge kick out of Doctor Strange, and I'm even getting a bigger kick out of how he fits into the larger Marvel universe as it currently stands. So that's my fourth one is Marvel movies. So you're up.
Yeah, mine, it's movies as well. Like sometimes I'll just go home, turn on Netflix or Disney, whatever streaming we have going on. And I don't really have anything where I'm like, I got to watch it. I'll just either do the random because it kind of chooses based on what I've watched in the past. And I'll just kind of watch it, just to sit back and watch. It could be a dumb movie, whichever it is, but I'll just watch the whole thing. It puts me into a different, just relaxing, just so I can lie on the couch, feet up, and just zone off into this movie and just watch it till the end.
What are you watching right now?
What was the one I just saw? I think it was The Sun 2. It was a mannequin that was possessed by the child that died previous years. It's kind of a goofy movie.
So sort of like a horror movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Child's Play, but with a mannequin instead of
kind of, but the mannequin doesn't really move. It gives you hints that it's been moving, and the babysitter's getting, wow, that mannequin wasn't there just 2 minutes ago. So it's like that eerie feeling.
Right.
The part one was pretty cool, and I saw part two. I'm like, well, I got to watch part two.
Got to watch part two.
Yeah. And, it's one of those movies where I could get up and do what I got to do.
Yeah, because it's a trashy horror movie. It's not a tough storyline to follow.
Not at all.
Scary thing happens. People are confused. More scary things happen. People are still confused.
Yeah, so that's the one I think I watched just the other day. It was good. It was awesome. Okay. Just random movies I like to watch. And it's always got to be on the like a thriller, sci-fi, horror.
You got a favorite trashy horror movie?
Oh, boy. There's so many of them. Like the ones I like is the Rob Zombie ones. The new ones.
The new ones, sure.
They're just kind of, I don't know if they're trashy. They're just freaky. They just scare me.
Rob Zombie stuff is visually very striking and maybe not narratively always coherent, but always visually striking. That his Halloween I didn't love, but I like the look of it.
Yeah,
makes sense
for me. Yeah, for me it was the Devil's Reject and the I forgot what was the one before that. I think there's
Devil's Rejects wasn't bad. It was good. It's a tough watch.
It's because when you look at those people, they look like somebody you could potentially meet up if you're in the country roads, back roads, whichever. So you kind of get that feeling like this could really happen from driving someplace.
No, I remember that one. I know
Michael Myers would never chase you, but somebody like that, they could kidnap you and do whatever.
100%. My favorite one ever, and I recommend this to everybody listening. It's like a 1982 movie. It's called The Beast Within. You can't watch the last half hour without covering your eyes.
Really?
I swear to my life, man. Like it says it on the box. And my buddies and I were like, when we were teenagers, we were horror movie aficionados. We it was a point of pride to us that we had rented every movie in the horror movie section of the video store. For those who don't know, video stores are a place where you used to have to go to rent movies. Now you just have them come to you. Mm-hmm. But we had rented every movie, and one of which was The Beast Within. Well, on the box, it said, we challenge you to watch the last 30 minutes of this movie without covering your eyes. And my friend's like, that's nonsense. Nope. It is absolutely true, and it is terrifying. But it's trashy. I highly recommend The Beast Within.
I'm going to have to write that down and check that out.
Yeah, great flick. But it's old, so it's badly lit. Like all movies from the 70s and 80s were.
Which makes it a little bit more creepier, I find.
100%. Especially the early Halloweens. They're so, it's so somber that you're like, oh, something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that suspense is what makes it interesting, to my mind. Anyway, So my fifth thing that I really enjoy doing with my downtime is taking my dogs on walks. So I have two dogs. I have a half Pyrenees, half St. Bernard puppy. She's like 6 now, named Bear. And I have an older half lab, half Newfie named Diesel, who just turned 9. And he's very energetic, showing no signs of his age at this point, not even slowing down even a little bit. And I actually had a bit of a heartbreaking moment this morning because we had just put a deposit down on a St. Bernard puppy. And we found out that I got an email at about 9:00 saying, unfortunately, the puppy that you put a deposit down has died, has passed away.
So sad.
Really was. And so that sort of sent my day into a little bit of an emotional tailspin for a minute. And I got all, but to that end, I love dogs. I love my dogs, and I would love to have many dogs. I got 2 right now, and walking them is how I decompress at night. I take them for about an hour walk every night between, after football practice, between say 8:45 to 10:00. Come in the door, get in the shower, and go to sleep. And that is every night for me. And the dogs love it. I love it. And it's good for my mental health. It's good for my physical health. And it's good for them. We all get a kick out of it. That being said, one of the things I like to do while I'm walking them is play poker on my phone. That's my bonus thing, is I love playing online poker. I love it so much, but I'm terrible at it. I'm not a good poker player. I'd like to be better at it, but I'm probably too aggressive. It's a personality trait. So number 5.
Our downtime is sometimes, not as often as I wish, but it's family game time. My son came home one day. My older son came home with the game Jumanji.
Oh,
yeah.
A real Jumanji game.
So we played it, and there's things that you have to do. Like one thing, actually, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's interactive. Yeah. So my son, he's 20, right? Mr. Cool and everything, right? So it's like the card read, he has to slither on the floor like a snake.
Okay.
Because it's part of the
action.
So I started laughing because he didn't want to do it. I'm like, buddy, come on, it's your game and it's part of the game.
This was your idea, yeah.
So he crawled around our living room floor, and I don't know what he had to do, but he had to do something. And I'm like, we're just dying laughing. And then another one was kind of funny because this one, I think it was my girlfriend had to be a giraffe, and she had to pick the fruit out of my hand as I stood on the chair. So I had to have fruit in my hand.
Yep. Stand on the chair.
Apple, banana, whichever I came across. And she had to reach up like a giraffe and bite it out of my hand.
And bite it out of your hand.
Yeah, like a giraffe would normally do. And it was part of the whole sequence of the game. If you can't, then we're going to be, killer bees are going to swarm our area, whatever.
Nobody wants killer bees.
And one was like, I got a card saying, we're being attacked by bats, I got to run around the house screaming bats, bats out the front door and come back in. And it just makes you feel silly.
Yep.
But after a day of stress and reality, just being stupid and crazy was fun, and we haven't laughed so hard in such a long time to see a bunch of adults and what kids are laughing, just crawling on the floor.
Well, it's funny because often in life, we think that family bonds are created by big moments, graduations, births, deaths, marriages, this, that, the other thing. And I don't think that's the case. I think in reality, family bonds are built with small moments, thousands of little moments just like that, where you can look back in 10 years and say, remember that time you slithered like a snake?
See, and that's what we always talk about. That if I talk to his mother, my ex-wife, I'm like, yeah, we played this game a couple of months ago. It's so funny, and that's what we bring up. Not
what's he doing in school,
exactly,
what's going on. It's the little things that matter. Yeah, those are, and the little things go a long way. And I'm right there on board with you. I think that's hugely important.
Yeah.
It's, I can't get enough of hanging out with my kids. The weather is nice. Something I like to do with my kids on occasion is my daughter is a weight room fanatic. So she and I will go over to a park around the corner from our house, and we will just go do a CrossFit Murph workout. So we'll bring my suspension cables. We'll do those for pull-ups. We'll do our push-ups, our air squats, and our running. So we do that, which is really fun. But one thing we also like to do is go to an outdoor recreation park and get our work done there. And Kahnawake has a pretty good, with limitations, outdoor fitness park. And so, I thought a fun segment to be this morning would be to discuss how best to use that outdoor fitness park. Now, again, there are benefits and there are drawbacks. And, we want to be fully transparent about all the things that go on there. I happen to think it's a great facility for several reasons, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I remember doing a presentation there, and I think it was created in 2014, I believe, or I could be wrong, it could be 2015. But me, along with some other trainers, went out there and we demonstrated certain exercises that people could do on it. I think they had the CrossFit gym going up there, showing the push-ups and the pull-ups and the kipping pull-ups. I went there showing some bodyweight movements, some sit-ups, some bench push-ups. Another trainer was there, had bands on it, just to see what you can do. And I think it's a great outdoor gym for people that can do these exercises. But for some, I think it might be intimidating, because I remember people saying, "Wow, we can't do pull-ups like that. We can't do push-ups like that. We can't. It's too much for a lot of people." But maybe not for beginners, but I think for people that do work out in general, it's a great place to go. And I believe there was even a QR code on one of the poles and you click on it, it tells you what exercise
show
to do.
Some exercises.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still up and running like that. I haven't been there. Like, I'll walk by when I'm walking on the water, and I don't know if it's been upkeeped in all these years or if anybody really uses it. I haven't really been there in the last 3-4 years.
Well, last summer we filmed the video there, which you can see on our Iorì wase website, and I highly recommend checking it out. At that time, when we were filming, there was 2 different groups that had showed up and were working out. Two couples in their 20s, so young kids showing off, but they were doing great. So give them a ton of credit for showing up. And it was a hot day. It was like 35 degrees Celsius that day. And they were in there doing the work. And I was super impressed. One of the things I like doing over there, and to your point, it can be intimidating for beginners, because pull-ups are hard. Pull-ups are tough. If you haven't done one before, like, you go over and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a pull-up," and you can't do one. And you're like, "Okay, well, there's not much of a workout there. I guess I'll leave." So I'm a big believer in modifying some of those things with simple sort of pieces of equipment that are pretty handy and you're familiar with as well. Having been in your facility a bunch of times, resistance bands and suspension cables, I love them. And because they have those high posts that you can wrap things around, you can do, you can do wood chops, you can do, suspension cable pull-ups, which are a lot easier to do than regular pull-ups. You can do suspension cable push-ups. If you have a place to put your suspension cables, anything is possible, but adding bands to it can give you an integral workout. If you happen to go nuts and bring a couple of pairs of dumbbells with you, well, Bob's your uncle, man. The sky's the limit over there. I would argue the one small issue I have is that I don't do abdominal stuff in the actual area. I move my abdominal exercises off of the sandy wood chip pit that is delineated by rails, and I move it onto the grass, because the grass is way easier to do a plank on your arms, for instance. It's easier on your lower back, and if you're in a t-shirt, It's not quite as irritating to your skin.
Yeah.
So that's the one drawback I find, is that the wood chips and sand are, I mean, it's an outdoor fitness park. You don't have a lot of choices in the matter, are tough on getting down on the ground.
See, what I think that might have been a good opportunity for them to do was put like a mid fence around it. That way animals don't go in there. Because I think a lot of people were complaining after a while, like, oh, well, what if cats go there and urinate, or what if animals go there and stuff like this, or what if it becomes just a hangout for kids,
like kitty
to
litter
smoke,
box,
or, stuff like that.
Yeah,
and like I said, I haven't been there in such a long time, so I don't know how it is. But I think maybe if they had like some kind of fence around it, to keep the animals out.
I mean, hey, not a bad idea. I'm thinking that might prompt me to make a return visit at some point in the next couple of weeks.
I think it would encourage a lot of people to go, because I remember in the beginning people were like, oh, it's gonna be a cat litter, right? And everybody always has something negative to say about anything that we try to do positive.
Yep.
But I did some workouts there when I was doing my boot camps. We go out there, we run up that little
embankment.
Yeah, run up there and go do the jumping pull-ups and the band pulls, and it was great.
Yeah.
I actually love working outside. The situation where it is sometimes behind someone's house and in front of the pizza parlor or the pizza place.
There's a lot. It's not super private, but I actually appreciate the mature trees around it. If on hot days, it does provide a lot of shade, which is really nice, because when you're working out in the plain sun, we are experiencing a situation where you're going to lose a lot of water off your body. Like, exercising is normally tough on the water in your body. Doing it in the sun is a recipe for heat stroke, especially if you are not taking time to doubly hydrate, because most people don't hydrate enough anyway, let alone do it double. So, I highly recommend that if you have the opportunity and you're in the community, you should get out, have a look at it, and see if it works for you. I think highly of the place, and even with the stuff it just has, without any bands, you can get in and give yourself a great workout if you are determined.
Yeah, it's all about how you approach it. If you look at it, it's like, I can't do this, you're not going to want to do it. But if you're like, hey, how can I do it? Because they have these dip bars where you can hang under it and do inverted rows.
Yeah, you can do cage pull-ups. Yeah, exactly.
So
absolutely.
There's always something you can do. It's all a matter of how bad you want it.
Well, that's it. And you can even adjust your feet to make those cage pull-ups easier or harder on your body, depending on how strong you are. So as you say, if you are determined, where there's a will, there's a way. So, it's one of those things where mindset is everything. And, I can't think of a better way to end Meatheads on this beautiful May day. So, Derek, it's been a pleasure as always. Derek DeLille, the CEO of Total Fitness right here in Kahnawake, which is an absolutely fantastic solution for all your fitness needs. My name is Marc Lalonde, and this has been Meatheads. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Meatheads, and please check out our other podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or Google, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Check out the front page, profiles, and the beating table.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Iorì and its employees.